everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Michelle and I run this channel. This is Easily Knitfluenced and this is my video on everything I knitted in 2023. So a bit of background on me. I live just outside of New York City with my husband, our two little boys, and our two cats. And I've been knitting on and off since I want to say 2017 or 18. And I made the mistake then that a lot of beginners do, I think, which was to exclusively knit rectangular objects, so scarves and blankets, and I thought garments were so scary. And all of that changed last year. I sort of took my first steps into garment making with a little tester sweater I made for my son, my older son. We don't talk about that because that sweater met a tragic end and is now completely felted, so if I can bear to look at it again, I will pull it out. But after that, I started making garments for myself, and 2023 was the first year where I did that for a full year. So this is my roundup. There are a bunch of items here that I made and still have. There are a few that have been gifted. So I did a couple gift knits. Those will be, I'll just insert those as pictures, I guess, since I don't have those in my possession anymore. But we'll kind of go in chronological order, I guess. One other thing, I was pregnant for most of 2023, so you'll see as I kind of go through these garments, a lot of them I was flying a little bit blind in terms of sizing, since it was quite hard for me to try these on, especially in the later months of my pregnancy. And my commentary on a few of them will also be limited because they were more seasonal items. And by the time I actually finished them, I was too big to wear them. So some of these are a TBD in terms of whether I truly like them or not, because they just haven't had their time in the sun yet. So with that, I'll start with the first one here, which was, truly a beginner pattern, very beginner friendly, and it is the Anker sweater from Petite Knit. So I'll just try these on, but I'll show you really simple kind of sweater here. This is the kind of circular yoke. I made a size large, which is too large. I have worn this once, so probably I will end up frogging this and I'll make something else out of it. But here's what it looks like on. So you can see this is quite a large sweater, very deep yoke, circular yoke with kind of this cool pattern on it. Getting off to a fantastic start here. I do not remember what yarn I made this out of, but it was one of the sandness garn fingering weights held double. That's all I kind of remember on it. But this is what it looks like. Not cropped or anything, not too big. Oh, my thoughts on this sweater. Great beginner project. Really, really straightforward. It was great to learn, how to shape a circular yoke, do the raglan increases, which are sort of, I don't know if you can see, but they're kind of like hidden within this pattern. Very, very cool. I would like to do maybe the Anker tee one day in sort of a lighter yarn, but this one, I think, I just don't wear it, and I don't really know why. I think the size is one thing. It feels a little baggy, like under the arms. I also was lazy and I didn't do the finishings that I've done in a lot of my subsequent projects. So I just did kind of a simple bind off there, which hopefully you can see. I didn't do the Italian bind off, which I learned how to do after this. So yeah, I may frog this and make something else out of it. I may keep it as kind of my, my first project for myself. But this is the Anker sweater, very easy pattern, all of Petite Knit's patterns, super, super easy to follow. So this is in her beginner section, if you want to look there. So that was sweater number 1 of the year. Then I went in kind of all guns blazing, and I thought, what I need after doing a beginner project is an all-over cable sweater. So I have since learned, looking at other people's videos, that this is a beast of a project, which it was. It took me a long time to finish. And it's one I wear a little more, but this is the sweater number 15 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Now this one I do wear. I will say this isn't my favorite color. So I don't know if you can see in this light, but it's kind of like a petrol blue gray type of color. The yarns I used here, I do remember, and look at my notes here. It's Le Garcon Yak sock base in Jason's Aqua, and the Julie Asselin Anatolia, so the mohair in Epinette. I didn't meet gauge for this project. I remember that being, I did like 3 gauge swatches on this. I didn't meet gauge on any of them. And by the time I was getting even close to gauge, the fabric was so open, I was like, this isn't going to work. So I decided to just not meet gauge and, you know, kind of wildly flail around in the dark and try to figure this out by myself. And so I thought, well, I'll knit the size large, not really knowing that my favorite things knitwear patterns tend to run very big anyway. And so I just went into this thinking like, oh, my differences in gauge will be made up for by the fact that I'm going to knit a bigger size. So this is very large on me. I'll show you in a second. So this is a true oversized sweater. You can see here. I mean, this fit me even when I was 9 months pregnant, as in it was like way out to here. So it's very drapey. Again, like you can see the sleeves are sort of, this is like really big on me. So I did a lot of unnecessary kind of extra knitting that I probably didn't really need to do. But I think this, you know, it's a beautiful pattern. Some really gorgeous detailing like here around the neck, the sort of the cables that go up. After I finished this, I said to myself that I am never knitting another cable pattern or another all over cable sweater in my life. That may or may not be true. We're going to see. But this was a beast to knit. By the end of it, I was very, very sick of my cable needle. I was sick of the repeat. But it is a beautiful product. I will say my learnings from this, you know, the sizing, it is too large. It's definitely too big. So there's just a lot of extra fabric in the armpits. So fine for just a, you know, a drapey sweater, but going back, if I had to go back and do it again, I would just knit the medium. Even the small, honestly, probably would have fit me because there's a lot of positive ease in this pattern. But, you know, that's okay. It's a lovely pattern. It was great to do, great to learn how to do the cables. Very different construction, obviously, to the Anker sweater. So that was a nice thing to do. And it was a challenge, you know, very interesting challenge. Again, I wouldn't choose this color again, probably, but I will wear it, absolutely. And I have worn it, so, you know, I'm pretty happy with this. Okay, next is one I do not have with me anymore. It is the Klint sweater by Anna Ventzel. That was a gift knit for my mother-in-law, and she loves all things cashmere. So I knitted it for her in Jade Sapphire Cashmere 2-ply in the colorway Sterling held double. And I did meet gauge with that one. I can insert some pictures here of what that looked like. And beautiful sweater, beautiful pattern, very, very easy to follow. I think pretty good if you've got any kind of DK weight yarn, and she loves it. She's worn it like multiple times when I've seen her. She was so happy with it. So that was a great gift knit. But that one took me a long time too, because I started it before I knew I was pregnant. And then the first couple months of this year, I really didn't knit much at all. So this sweater got put down for a long time. It was part morning sickness, part just that real extreme tiredness of the first trimester. I just couldn't bear to knit and kind of like concentrate on something, you know, in my hands. And so I didn't pick this up again, I think, until May. And then I finished it in a matter of like 2 weeks. So very easy pattern. Loved it. Next was my Harlow sweater V-neck by Caidree. And this is knit in Purl Soho Season Alpaca in High Tide. So this is what it looks like. The color is absolutely beautiful. Lovely drape. The alpaca is very nice. This is a yarn I still have like probably 11 balls of. I ordered a blanket quantity of this when it was on sale in one of Purl Soho's kind of clearance sales, and started the blanket, got absolutely sick of it, ripped it all out, and now I have tons of yarn left, and I just decided to kind of cast this on one day. So I'll try it on for you. You can see what it looks like. So I knit the size small in this one. Beautiful details. You know, you've got the 2x2 rib here. And I don't know if you can see, there is a split hem detail on the sides. Lovely garment. I love this. I wear it for work. It's a pattern I would knit again. Really simple, but very, very classic. I knit the small, you know, I might go for a medium next time. I think this fits me fine, but you know, I would like it to be maybe a little longer, a little drapier at the bottom. Because I feel like it's looser up top, and then I'm gonna stand up again. I don't know if you can see, it kind of clings a little more like towards the bottom here. And okay, so this is where we're getting into the territory of I was pregnant, I couldn't try anything on, and so, you know, these things were sort of done a little bit blindly and kind of like holding stuff up to myself and seeing if it worked. So yeah, this was one of those, and so I couldn't really gauge where it was going to fall on me, how tight it was going to be at the bottom. So yeah, I think maybe if I did this again, I would go for a medium, even though I like how it looks up top, so I might make some modifications there. But great pattern, super easy to follow, would definitely knit more of her patterns. This was a great one. Okay, and now we are getting into summer knitting. So these are tops that have not been worn at all, because as I was knitting them, I was in my second trimester, I was rapidly expanding, and so by the time I finished them, you know, in the summertime, they just didn't fit anymore. But I really like knitting them, so I'll show them to you anyway. The first one is the Tide Loops Tee by Other Loops. So it is this really beautiful, I don't know if you can see it in this light. There you go, that's better. It's this beautiful kind of like moving sands pattern, and I knit this in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the color Haze. It's a beautiful yarn, but my God, this hurt my hands. This was, if it were not for, you know, the kind of the breaks you get in the pattern here by doing, you know, the purl rows, and you kind of knit this inside out. So like, if I didn't have those breaks doing this, this would have been, I think I would have given up on it, because the yarn was really hard on my hands. And the other thing, I'm not terrible at German short rows, but this was this yarn is incredibly unforgiving for things like that. So I have like legit just holes, what looks like kind of puckering, and I don't know if you can, maybe you can see it. It's like right there. And so that's kind of frustrating. You know, not something that you'll necessarily see, but I know it's there, so that annoys me. But I'll show you what it looks like on. So it's a beautiful project. I'm so excited to wear this next summer. But like I said, it didn't get its time in the sun this summer. That's okay. Super light, beautiful, airy fabric. You know, I love the pattern. It was the right size. I think I knit the small or maybe the medium. I'll have to check. I'll put it in the description here. But loved this. You know, as much as I complain about the yarn, I do think the result is worth it, so I may buy it again. And I have a couple of balls left of this, so I may, you know, hold it double with something else potentially. But this was a gorgeous pattern, and I have other projects of hers that that I want to cast on at some point. So that was t-shirt number 1. Okay, t-shirt number 2. This is the T number 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. And again, I'm trying to show you the color here because the light is fading a little bit, but this is knit in Purl Soho linen quill in the color Peach Stone. Something else I've discovered this year, I don't necessarily love peach tones, but I gravitate towards them a lot. So this is more of a gray, which is fine. You know, this project, gotta be honest, I didn't love knitting this. It has a lot of like breaking the yarn, and you know, there's a lot of places where you need to break the yarn and then kind of reattach things and pick up stitches, and to a point that it felt a little too much almost. It felt a bit unnecessary, so I didn't love that. And you know, I will admit my mistakes. I just chose the wrong yarn for this. It's meant to be a summer tee. This yarn is a mix, I think, and I'll write it in the description, but it's wool, linen, and something else, and it's just too warm. So I don't know when I'm gonna wear this. It's also a little itchy. The linen in it, is a little prickly, and I'm wearing it over a t-shirt now, so like I'm not going to feel it, but you know, when I tried it on next to skin, I was like, I don't know if this is going to work for me. So I don't know, this may be one that I wear in like the fall, you know, maybe on like a warmish fall day when like the cold will sort of counteract the prickly, but there you can see it. Very simple tee. You know, I don't think I would knit this pattern again. It is a very basic tee, but like it kind of, just all of the breaking of yarn really annoyed me. So I don't know if I would knit this again. Okay, next is another one I gifted, which I don't have with me anymore. I gave it to my mother for Christmas. It is the Fern sweater by Knitting for Olive. So that one I knit out of Purl Soho Quartz in the color Pink Starfish, which is the fingering weight yarn, held with their Tussock in Pink Fog. So it's very pink. It has also got a big turtleneck, and I don't know why I decided to actually make the turtleneck, because if I look in my closet, I don't own anything with a turtleneck, and with good reason, because when I tried this on, it was just suffocating around here, and it is also kind of a lace pattern, which just didn't sit right on my shoulders kind of when the whole project was done and it sort of put together. So it just didn't suit me. I didn't like wearing it. I didn't like the color. Beautiful pattern though. I will say it was my first time doing lace knitting, and really nice pattern. Can't fault them for that. It was very like potato chippy. So you kind of like do a repeat. I think it was like a 3-row repeat, and then you kind of go on to the next one. So like watching the lace take shape was pretty addictive. But yeah, I never wore it. And so, you know, my mother loves this kind of color and it looks better on her. And, you know, she has a much smaller frame up here, and it looks so much better on her, honestly. So that one is no longer in my possession. Next one I made is another Anne Ventzel project, and that is the Robinia sweater. This is my first time doing any kind of color work. So I'll show you this. This is what she looks like. It is this combination of a purple and pink. And this is worsted twist from Purl Soho in gray fig and peony pink. I don't think they do this yarn anymore. I'd have to check what the equivalent now is. They definitely have like 100% merino worsteds. They've just called them something different. So I think, again, I got these on sale, and I got them specifically with this project in mind. So first time doing color work, I also decided to do a color work project. I didn't realize this would be harder, but you know, where you have to purl in color work, because you start this project flat. So you kind of start on the back here. Knitting flat, and then you kind of join the various different pieces together. So I didn't realize that was that complicated. And trying to do the swatch on this was an interesting experience, because I was just reading the charts all wrong. I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, it's such a simple pattern. Like, anyone who does color work will look at this and be like, what are you talking about? It looks so easy. And by the time when I did get it, it was easy. But kind of figuring out what I had to do and how to read the chart was a bit of a challenge, but I love this. You know, I love Purl Soho yarns, as you can probably tell. So let me show you what this looks like on. So this is what she looks like. Very kind of puffy balloon sleeve look. This came together, I mean, so fast, and it was after I'd done, you know, a couple of summer projects in like fingering. So this felt like it just flew off the needles, but it's maybe a little on the cropped side versus what I would normally wear, but I'm really happy with how this turned out. It is so smooth and soft. You know, I think where Purl Soho really shines is their merinos, their cashmere blends. So if you guys are interested, you know, I'm thinking about doing kind of a review of various different Purl Soho yarns that I've tried and how they've performed, but you know, no pilling on this so far. It's been, you know, I've worn this out a bunch of times. I haven't noticed anything on it yet. So, and it's so smooth, so soft, just really comfortable to wear. So I love this, you know, love the purple. I know I said I don't love pink. This is a mostly purple sweater. So I'm kind of like okay with that. But again, you see what I mean. I gravitate towards pink, and I don't entirely know why, because if you look at my closet of store-bought stuff, there's nothing pink in there. A lot of purple though. So this I feel like toes that line fine though. So I do love this. Okay, next up we have probably the MVP of this year's garment knitting, and that is the Champagne Cardigan by Petite Knit. So here she is. Hard to see what I've done here, but this is the one I've worn the most this year. Beautiful pattern. Obsessed. Like, this is probably the first pattern where I finished it and I was like, I would make 3 of these. I mean, I would love to make more of these. And I knit this, again, Purl Soho, their Cashmere Merino Bloom in wheat flour. Now, I am not a fiber expert. You know, I don't know anything necessarily about the construction of fibers, about what's softest, what isn't. I will say from my experience, this is I'll put the exact blend up on the screen. This is a Cashmere Merino blend. It is still softer than a lot of the store-bought things that are in my closet that claim to be 100% cashmere. So, you know, I think there's cashmere and there's cashmere. I don't know what the difference is between the really soft stuff and, you know, the kind of more like, you know, lower grade stuff. But I have things in my closet that I've bought, you know, from very expensive stores, from very cheap stores, from online, that say 100% cashmere, you know, on the label, and they are not as soft as this. And I think this is only 30% cashmere. So gorgeous yarn, absolutely gorgeous. I'll show you what this looks like on. I knit the size small, which is still pretty oversized on me, but I absolutely love it. I also didn't mind knitting this button band. I thought this was like such a cool little journey. I did have to make some modifications on the needle size to get this to work, but I think it's beautiful. So here, let me show you what this looks like. So I love this. I think it's beautiful. My one gripe with this, it pills a lot. So look, I don't know if you can kind of see what's going on there. I've ordered a de-piller. I don't care that it pills. I am willing to live with that because this is such a scrumptious yarn. It is beautiful. It was so lovely to work with. They have a bunch of gorgeous colors. I want to do one in their like cherry red color that they have. Absolutely stunning. 10 out of 10 would recommend this. If you're interested in Purl Soho yarns, I think this is probably my favorite one that I've worked with so far. You know, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Love it. Such a fan. Okay, now we are getting into 2 gift knits that I did at the end of the year. So again, I do not have these. One of them was for my brother, the other was for my husband. So the one I made for my brother was the Beckenham Scarf by Maria Ravenscroft. So this was knit in Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the color Dark Ochre. First time knitting with that yarn. Beautiful pattern, super easy. You know, it was a scarf. I was ragging on like knitting scarves for beginners in the earlier part of this video, but I was asking my brother what he needs. Obviously, I cannot try garments on him because he doesn't live here. He lives in Amsterdam, and he was like, listen, you know, I don't have many winter accessories. So I was like, okay, perfect. Let me make you a scarf. So I ordered the yarn. This is something I've heard other people say. This wasn't my favorite to knit with. It's very dry. It's 100% merino, but it's like, I don't know. It felt like it made my hands drier, and my hands are already dry because it's winter in New York. So it wasn't my favorite to work with, but I will say my brother, I asked him today how it was wearing, and he said it still looks brand new. He's been wearing it every single day. He cycles in it. It's gotten wet. It's like, you know, it's Dutch weather. No pilling. He sent me a picture of it, which I'll insert. It still looks like it did when I sent it to him. So I think this is a very hard wearing yarn. So with that in mind, you know, I may knit with it again, maybe pair it with like a Surrey or something softer. But yeah, it kind of didn't hurt my hands, but it wasn't like, if I'm comparing it to like the Cashmere Merino Bloom, which just was like a lovely sensory experience to knit with, this was not that, you know. So I'm glad it was only a scarf and not a full garment, knitted with just that, because I think I might have lost patience with that. But beautiful pattern, really easy. It gives you a bunch of options. You can make narrow, medium, and wide scarves, and it kind of adjusts the chevron pattern accordingly. So, you know, perfect if you kind of want to make one for yourself, want to make one for, you know, a friend or a kid even. So you can kind of adjust the sizing of it pretty well. And then the last one, the Hans-Tolm sweater by Petite Knit. Again, I don't have this. It is in the house somewhere, but it's my husband's. So he is working right now, so I don't know where it is. But here's some pictures. Very simple pattern, raglan. I knit this in a now discontinued yarn, which is a shame. It was the John Arbon Textiles Knit by Numbers DK 100% Merino. This is a beautiful yarn. I mean, this just the stitch definition of this and like just how the stitches line up is gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's you know, it's too bad that they don't do this anymore. I think they've now started doing like a different blend. So I may give that one a shot, but this I bought at my local yarn store, which is Pick Up Every Stitch in Mount Kisco. If you guys haven't been there and you're in the New York area, highly recommend that place. It's awesome. It's where I get most of my yarn these days. If it's not from Purl Soho's online shop. Not a lot to say about this other than it is the most massive project I've ever worked on other than blankets. So I think at one point I had like 400 plus stitches on the needles, which was a lot. It was a lot to kind of get the body done. And I was on Stockinette Island, like just knitting and knitting and knitting, and it took a long time. But it's a beautiful pattern. It fits him so well. Like it really looks like something that could have been store-bought. That's how well it fits him. It's super warm. He loves it. You know, I had knit things for the kids and myself and his mom. And so he was like, why don't I get anything from you? And I'm like, okay, so I got to make you something. So I made him the sweater. And yeah, it was my first time knitting for a man. So, you know, was a little bit cognizant of the sort of adjustments you need to make. I think for when I'm knitting for myself or for another woman, I just take the bust measurement and then I'm like, you know, if it's kind of like a little on the baggier side, that's sort of very in right now in terms of a style. So I didn't mind that too much. But obviously for a man, it just looks a little bit, I think, in my opinion, a bit sloppy. So it's a much more fitted kind of garment on him. So I was like quite paranoid and like trying it on him multiple times. So this was not a surprise gift knit. Like he knew this was coming. But love the pattern. I thought it was great. A very enjoyable knit. The yarn was awesome. He loves it. So all in all, big win there. That is it for items that I knitted in 2023. We'll see what 2024 brings. You know, I have 2 young children and I work full time. So I doubt I will ever be the kind of channel where I'm producing 4 things a month. Who the hell knows? Maybe I'll get quicker. But we shall see. So that's it, I think. You know, I may do a separate video just on learnings. I know I've mentioned a couple things in this video around, you know, things I wouldn't do again, but I want to compile my thoughts on that a little bit more methodically, because there have been things I've sort of learned about myself, learned about knitting and picked up throughout the year where I just look back and think, okay, you know, I probably wouldn't do that again, or I'd do it differently, or I'd pick something different. So I'm trying to be a bit more thoughtful about those particular things in this coming year. So we'll see how that goes. But for now, thank you for tuning in. I hope this was interesting. I've got a good selection here, I think. And, you know, for my first year of garment knitting, I feel like this isn't bad. We'll see. You know, I hope there's more items I knit this year in 2024 that actually get worn heavily enough, like my champagne cardigan, that they get covered in pills. I feel like it's an annoying problem, but it also means that like you're loving the garment, in my opinion. So, you know, get a fabric shaver and keep enjoying the garment. So I want to see a little bit more of that and less of the garments where I'm like, oh, I knit this and then, you know, I wore it once or I never wore it. So I don't want to be just a process knitter. I do want to be a product knitter too. So yeah, I will start a regular kind of podcast series around just, you know, my whips, my finished objects, my acquisitions, all that kind of good stuff, my plans. But, you know, I also want to run through yarn reviews. I have a lot of ideas around kind of beginner videos because I myself, you know, I still consider myself a beginner knitter, maybe advanced beginner at this point, but definitely a beginner. And there's things I've learned along the way that hopefully I can share with people that will maybe help them a little bit because they were things I wasn't necessarily aware of, or I was aware of them, but maybe didn't understand them very specifically yet. So I may make some videos on that too, and just share my thoughts on those. But for now, thank you for tuning in. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Super excited to be on this platform, and hopefully I want to make some new knitting friends out here. So thanks again. Enjoy the rest of your day.